Nice one, Amy. Thanks for that. OK, let's hit the headlines, Joe. What's making news today?
Well, in the Daily Mail, do you want me to hold it up?
Don't bother.
Oh, OK. Yes, in the Daily Mail, the headline, of course, on the front page is the summer of the strikers, because the council workers are threatening a series of summer strikes, which means that the garbage won't be picked up, and you know,
school assistants are off, aren't they?
Exactly, and you know, the workers rejected, at least of those who did vote as part of the union, they rejected a pay offer of almost 2.5% raise. And
you used to be mayor of Cincinnati, didn't you?
Yeah, well, you know...
Where do you stand on things like public service workers and striking? Because their pay offer is considerably below inflation.
Well, that's right, and so therefore I don't think it's fair. I don't think you can ask just because they work for the government, you can't ask these people to make less money than what the inflation is. Because it's always the people at the bottom that suffer. Because I noticed on the same page, the MPs are talking about a pay raise.
Yeah.
Well, why do the wealthy people get a pay raise? Yeah. And then you're asking the workers, the guy that's got to pick up the garbage and has the toughest job of all, that they should not at least keep pace. You know, there should be a cost of living increase.
And things are getting dearer and dearer and dearer. So, I mean, cost of living is about 2.5 times the rate of inflation. So, I mean, if we're talking about matching the cost of living, we'd be talking about pay rises of 10% plus.
Right. In other words, I don't think people should get rich working for the government, but I think there is a middle ground, and the middle ground ought to be that you ought to be able to keep pace with the cost of living.
Well said.
So,
well said.
that's what.
Okay.
Then, boy, it is a tough one. You know, we all know what's going on in Zimbabwe. The Minister of Defense, the chiefs here have plans for they haven't decided to do it, but to use military force in Zimbabwe if necessary.
If it tips towards genocide.
Yeah, and I think that's the area. When it's genocide, then you can't worry about government boundaries anymore, and then you can't worry about, well, it's going to look bad, and do we have the right to...
We did seem to get into Iraq ever so quickly, didn't we, where there was lots of oil, and we seem incredibly slow doing anything with Zimbabwe.
Well, sure, because, and you just, you know, everyone there is black. There is no oil there. It is not perceived that there's a vast economic interest there. There is no question. But there's some lessons to be learned from Iraq that if ultimately, to stop genocide, if it gets to be genocide, but if it gets to be genocide and that you need military involvement to stop it, then you have to make sure that we don't make the mistake, particularly that America made, in part Great Britain as well, but mostly America, that you don't have any plans for what happens once you go in there.
Well, no exit strategy.
No exit strategy. No, you know, how do you have the government function after you knock off the leaders? So there has to be a lot of planning going on. And the great problem seems to be that around Zimbabwe, you have to have the other African countries cooperating. Otherwise, there's no place to land the planes. There's no place to transport the troops. So it can't just be Great Britain going in, because you're going back to colonization then.
Absolutely.
And it can't just be America coming in, for God's sakes. We can't have that again. So it has to be where the African Union is very much involved in what this great problem would be, which would be genocide. And then I believe there is a military option if there's genocide.
Yeah, again,
that's an issue.
Totally with you there.
Then, well, how about this? I think New York is safer than Manchester, a judge is told. Well,
is it?
Well, I don't know, because I've spent some time in Manchester, but not a lot of time, so I can't tell you that. But this guy obviously was arrested, and he had a gun. He said he found the gun in the bushes or something.
Yeah, as you do.
As you do.
Yeah, just casual.
I leapt out of the bushes, and I don't know how it got into my pocket.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times this happened to me. Oh, my God, a gun in the bush.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time looking in bushes, do you? Then,
yeah.
A gun in the bush is worth 2 in the house.
I know that's true.
Stop talking about my president. So, because there's a bush with guns, I'll tell you. And he's saying, well...
You supported Hillary Clinton, didn't you?
I supported Hillary Clinton, and now that it's Barack Obama, we quickly shifted...
Absolutely, very smart. In the finest tradition of politics.
Yes. I am a supporter of Hillary Clinton, but she didn't, she didn't get enough delegates, so it's going to be Barack Obama, and which I'm very happy with.
Do you think he'll go all the way, or do you think black skin will count against him in the end? Because I think that's the big issue, isn't it?
I got to think that in the end, I think if the election's held today, he wins in a landslide. Right. Now, that doesn't mean something won't happen in between, but I think right now, and I will say, with all the criticism American government gets for what it did in Iraq, which I think is justified, the criticism, I do have to say, and maybe this is me being a proud American, the fact that 7 years after 9/11, the American people can elect an African American whose name is Barack Obama as its president really says something about the openness of the American people. I mean, it really does, and I just really think, wow. So every time I get critical of my government for what it's done in Iraq, and sometimes it's too boisterous, sometimes it's too, that's kind of neat. The people kind of said, yeah. And so this guy could be our president. And it would have been unthinkable in most societies. Absolutely. Particularly, I tell you what, for me, will say even more about America will be whether he can survive a full term without being assassinated as a black president. Oh, well, yeah, but gosh, I even hate.
Yeah, it's not even worth thinking about. Hopefully not worth thinking about.
Yeah, and so
one last one for you then, Jerry.
Okay, now what are we going here? Oh, well, here's my kind of issue. Trafalgar Square. Okay, when I think of Trafalgar Square...
You think of pigeon poo-poo. That's what I think about. Have you been there? It rains down.
Yeah, but, I was... Well, I guess, I was born in London, and I left when I was 5. I left when I found out I couldn't be king. And, but, when an American thinks of Trafalgar Square, we think of the end of World War II, people going down there. This is a wonderful, Now, you've got these plinths.
That's right.
Okay. Which I agree is not a word I use a lot. If somebody said to me, use plinth in a sentence, I'd think you either have a lisp or you're gay. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, so you got a plinth.
Yeah, with nothing on it.
With nothing on it. And now, basically, the city is saying, come on down, because as an art exhibit, they are willing to have volunteers, people to volunteer for an hour at a time. You can stand on the plinth. And talk about the plinth having nothing on it. The people might have nothing on them.
You don't have to wear clothes. No clothes required.
Well, apparently that's now Scotland Yard is having a different thought about it. But to go down to, which is great because some of these nightclubs are very expensive. To think I could go to Trafalgar Square and see some babe up there with no clothing on for an hour. Now, are they going to serve drinks? Or, so I don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, there's going to be. But if you can have art there, it's like the only art that's acceptable to be naked is if it's dead. Because if you can have a naked statue, which is fine. Yeah. But if the person is naked, that's not okay. So maybe when you're up there for an hour, you can't breathe. You got to hold your breath for an hour. I don't know.
It's a thought. Thank you for that, Jerry. Go. What have you got? We'll rattle through the rest.
Yes, right.
Come on, pull yourself together.
Sorry. Very upsetting story. It's about obesity in children, and 1 in 10 children in England are obese by the time that they start school, which I just find in this day and age is absolutely incredible. As a mum and you've got children, it's just common sense to make sure they eat properly, they're not obese. We don't want...
Well, clearly, as you're saying yesterday, this £200 cash reward for parents if they feed their children properly. The government's taken a view that there's an awful lot of parents out there that don't.
But the highest...
And they're probably watching the Jeremy Kyle show, even as I say those words.
With no teeth.
Yeah. Looking good today. Have another pizza, kids. Shut up.
Sucking the pizza with their no teeth.
Jerry Springer light.
But no, in Hackney, in East London, that's the highest rate of obesity in Britain. 16% of children are obese before they start school.
That's where I grew up. You should have seen me as a kid.
You chubby as a child?
I grew up in Hackney.
Were you chubby as a child?
No, I wasn't actually. No.
No.
I tried, but yeah.
I will skim over this one.
Go on.
John Leslie is in a new rape arrest. Now, all the allegations, John Leslie has he's been arrested over a new accusation of rape. And I know that he was acquitted of indecent assault in 2003. He was accused with rape before, but was never, ever charged. So I don't really know what the story is. Do you know anything about the story?
All I know is that some idiot once accidentally linked him with a Ulrika Johnson
That's why they gave me that
and...
story, you see? So you don't get yourself into any trouble. Moving along swiftly, allegedly. He's always been
Don't put that paper near me. I wasn't even in the country.
Anything else? Anything else? Anything else?